Part 3 of our retrospective is going to focus on the style of the Xbox 360, how Microsoft went from big, black, and blocky with the Xbox to slim, ivory, and sleek with the 360.
The Xbox 360 is shaping up to be a gaming powerhouse, and Microsoft wants to make sure that its new system's appearance reflects its amazing abilities.
We started with this guy, which was a really wonderful box. It worked really well, but let's just say it needed a little more love in terms of design aesthetic. So we thought, well, where can we go with this?
If we think about Japan and some of the issues we've had in Japan as regards the inability of us really to get going, quite frankly, one of the core issues has been the design of the current Xbox.
That system was gigantic. It was heavy, and it didn't appeal to anybody but Americans and a few Europeans. It was way too big for the Japanese market, and Microsoft tanked in Asia. Tanked. I mean, they didn't sell badly, they sold horribly.
So the criteria I laid out for the brand team at that time was, we have got to be able to satisfy the Japanese gamer. We actually looked at 5 different design companies from around the world. It narrowed down to 2 companies.
One was Astro in San Francisco, and another one is G4’s in Osaka. Got to a point where designs were going back and forth between G4’s and Astro. And so they started playing with what's the button going to look like? What happens when you actually have enough ports for gameplay and all of those kind of things? And so it started really drawing in.
The design of the box and the form factor that we ultimately landed on is always a trade-off between mechanical constraints, being thermal and physical constraints, versus industrial design. It's very similar to an architect and a civil engineer building a skyscraper. The best-looking design may not be able to be built. The most robust design may be very straightforward, ugly, not the type of thing you'd want to actually build.
What we wanted was this breathe-in quality, where it breathes in. You get this sense of power as though you're in the blocks and starting a race, or the analogy was Bruce Lee pulling back to do a punch.
On one end of the spectrum, if you make the box too small, you end up with a box that is too hot, too loud, with the fans having to churn a lot of air through that box to cool it off, too high of a cost in miniaturization cost. The other end of the spectrum, if you build only a mechanical design solution, you end up with a very large, ugly box. It may be quiet, but it's not aesthetically pleasing.
We did user studies. We went through around the world, Germany, France, England, United States, parts of Asia, talked to different designers, talked to different gamers and said, what are you interested in? And it started taking shape. We kind of had some interesting changes here. This one came from Japan, and it had a very nice pillowy feature to it and had the handle. Again, it was not a practical box. Really, what we were trying to do is see what people responded to. It really ran the gamut. I mean, you got this kind of guy, which has some nice features on it in terms of the chrome and all that, but it's still pretty boxy and might look like someone else you might know. This came from a very high-end designer. We thought maybe it could have a hamburger in it, but so we didn't really think that it worked that well. Oop, look at that. There was some sleek designs too that brought in things like glass textures, and these are really explorations.
So what you will see is somewhat concave. It has what we call the iconic gesture. That gesture is iconic enough that makes it distinctive, but not too bold and brash that will make it look, if you will, out of fashion after a couple of years.
And what we ended up with was this design. And you can see there's a lot of what was here has been incorporated into the final design. You get the gesture, you get the breathe in, you get a design aesthetic that is more appealing to a wider audience. You get some of the chrome and some of the finer lines, the organic lines, but there's still an architectural quality about it, and a simple quality that allows you to really get a sense that this is a high quality machine. You can see the difference between the two.
A few finishing touches round out the final package.
You'll be able to take the faceplate off and snap on a faceplate either absolutely personalized to what you want to do.
This is our favorite feature too, is that we have the ring of light. It's the thing that tells you how many controllers are actually attached to the system. And you see that this is in the upper left position. Okay, you ready for this big move? All right, ready, here we go. So it's in position 1 now. Look at that, woo!
An equal amount of care is given to the design of the Xbox 360 controller.
So the areas where we put lots and lots of energy into this is the gamepad itself. People are going to be holding this for hours on end, playing games, playing different types of games that use the control sets in different ways.
We did tons and tons of user testing, and we went through all kinds of iterations, some of them even laughable, like this one. And what we did is we actually tried different sizes and shapes. So you kind of go, oh, how's that feel? You'd pass this around a whole basket full of these and go, how's that feel in your hand? Oh, I don't know, that feels pretty good. And then you hand it to somebody else and they go, no, that doesn't feel good.
One of the key elements to making the console as unique as it is the decision to go wireless on the gamepads.
The Xbox 360 controller is not a revolutionary controller. It's an evolutionary controller. Microsoft took the basic shape of the S controller from the Xbox and refined it and polished it and crafted it to a much more ergonomically fit controller. It's lighter, it's very sturdy, it feels good in your hands.
But no matter how well designed a controller is, no matter how slick a console looks, it all comes down to the games, and Microsoft knows it.
The shape of the new Xbox is definitely a huge leap forward from its monolithic predecessor.
I must say that the power adapter for this thing is enormous. It is the Godzilla of wall plugs.
Yeah, it's jaw-droppingly large, but the design of the 360 means nothing unless you have something compelling to play on it. We'll have great game reviews later in the show.
But up next, more Zero Hour, more Xbox 360, more us.
But don't let that keep you from watching.
Please.
More about the Xbox 360 right after this, only on G4.
January 15th.
Engage.
Star Trek: The Next Generation goes interactive. Upgraded with 22 new stocks and all new facts and stats.
Resistance is futile.
Star Trek TNG 2.0 premieres January 15th at 9. You will be assimilated. Only on G4.
Game shown